The dust motes danced in the single shaft of sunlight, piercing the grimy window of the old house, illuminating a silence so profound it felt like a presence. Elara, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, traced a finger along the faded wallpaper, a pattern of wilting roses that seemed to sigh with forgotten memories. 58 years old, Elara had inherited this house, this mausoleum of a life she barely remembered, from her maternal grandmother, Anna. Anna had been a woman of shadows and hushed tones, her past a locked room Elara had never dared to enter. Now, Anna was gone, and Elara stood on the threshold of that room, a heavy brass key clutched in her hand. The house itself was a character, a sprawling Victorian structure on the outskirts of a town that had long since forgotten its grandeur. Its paint peeled like sunburnt skin, its shutters hung askew, and the garden, once a riot of color, was now a tangled wilderness. Elara had spent her childhood summers here, a quiet, observant girl often left to her own devices while Anna tended to her mysterious, often solitary pursuits. Elara remembered the scent of lavender and old books, the creak of floorboards, and the oppressive weight of unspoken things. Her mother, Lillian, Anna's daughter, had left this house at 18 and never looked back, a silent testament to a rift Elara had never understood. Lillian had carried a lightness about her, a determined cheerfulness that sometimes felt brittle, as if she were constantly warding off a deeper, older sadness. Elara, in turn, had grown up with her mother's cheerful evasions, learning to navigate the world without ever truly knowing her grandmother. The will, read by a dry elderly lawyer named Mr. Harrison, had been precise. The house, its contents, and a small, surprisingly robust trust fund, all bequeathed to Elara, not to Lillian, just Elara. This detail had stung Lillian, Elara knew, reopening an old wound she thought had healed. But Lillian, ever practical, had urged Elara to sell the place. "It's just an old house, dear," she'd said, her voice a little too bright, full of dust and bad memories. Better to let it go. Yet, Elara couldn't. A strange pull, an almost visceral curiosity held her captive. She felt Anna's presence here, a faint whisper in the echoing halls, a story waiting to be told. The key felt cold in her palm. It belonged to a small, ornate wooden box she had found tucked away in Anna's bedroom, beneath a stack of yellowed linens. The box, intricately carved with ivy and birds, had no visible lock, only a tiny, almost invisible keyhole on its underside. Elara had spent an hour searching for the key, a treasure hunt orchestrated by a woman long dead. Now, as the tumblers clicked, a soft sigh escaped the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a single handwritten letter, its paper brittle with age, and a tarnished silver locket. The letter, addressed to "My dearest Elara," was written in Anna's elegant, looping script. Elara's hands trembled as she unfolded it. The words began to dance before her eyes, revealing a story that shattered the carefully constructed narrative of her family. Anna wrote of a secret, a profound decision made in the throes of desperation, a choice that had haunted her every living day. She spoke of a love, a man named Jonas, a passionate whirlwind romance that had ended abruptly, tragically, with an impossible choice. A child, a boy, born out of wedlock in a time when such a thing was a scandal that could destroy a family. Elara's breath hitched. A boy? Her mother, Lillian, had always been an only child. "I gave him away, Elara," the letter confessed, the ink blurring slightly as if Anna's own tears had fallen on the page. "To protect him, and to protect Lillian. Your grandfather, a good but rigid man, would never have accepted him. The shame, it would have broken us all." The letter detailed how Anna had arranged for the boy, a newborn she named Daniel, to be adopted by a childless couple in a neighboring town, sworn to secrecy. "I watched him from afar, Elara, for a while. He grew into a kind, strong young man. But the pain of his absence, the secret, it festered. It poisoned my relationship with your mother, for I could never fully explain my sadness, my distance. She deserved a mother who was whole, but I was irrevocably broken." The revelation hit Elara with the force of a physical blow. A brother, an uncle, a ghost in her family line. The locket, when she finally managed to pry it open, contained 2 tiny, faded photographs, one of a young Anna, radiant and smiling, and the other, a sepia-toned image of a baby, impossibly small, wrapped in a crocheted blanket. "Daniel," the letter continued, a plea from beyond the grave. I pray you find this, Elara. I pray you understand. And I pray you, if you can, find Daniel. Tell him I never stopped loving him. Tell him I regret every day of my life that I could not be his mother. And tell him his sister Lillian exists. She deserves to know the truth, even if it brings pain. The truth, however difficult, is always better than the silence. Elara sat on the dusty floor, the letter clutched to her chest, the weight of generations of unspoken grief pressing down on her. The quiet house, once merely old, now pulsed with a vibrant, tragic history. The mystery, far from being solved, had only deepened. What did this mean for Lillian, her fiercely independent mother, who had always seemed so content in her carefully curated life? What would this secret, this colossal untruth, do to her? The following weeks were a blur of research. Elara, driven by a fierce, almost desperate need for answers, delved into old town records, birth certificates, and newspaper archives. She felt like a detective, piecing together fragments of a shattered past. The neighboring town Anna had mentioned was small, its history well documented. She found an adoption agency that had operated during that time, its records now archived in a dusty municipal building. With Mr. Harrison's help, navigating legal red tape and privacy laws, Elara eventually found a name: Daniel Miller, born the same year as Lillian, adopted by the Millers, a couple who had since passed away, leaving no children of their own. Daniel Miller. The name echoed in her mind, a tangible link to the ghost in the locket. She found an address, a faded entry in an old phone book. The address was still within the same small town, a modest bungalow on a quiet street. The drive to Daniel's house felt interminable. Elara's palms were sweaty on the steering wheel. What would she say? How do you tell a stranger, a man who had lived his entire life oblivious, that he had another family, another life that had been hidden from him? She pulled up to the curb, the small bungalow looking unassuming, almost shy, behind a carefully tended rose garden. A man was pruning roses in the front yard. He was in his late 50s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, his hair a distinguished salt and pepper. He looked up as her car approached, a question in his gaze. Elara's heart pounded. This had to be Daniel. There was something in his eyes, a familiar spark, a warmth that reminded her faintly of Anna. "Excuse me?" Elara began, her voice a little shaky. "Are you Daniel Miller?" The man straightened, wiping his hands on a gardening glove. "That's me," he replied, his voice calm, friendly. "Can I help you?" Elara took a deep breath. "My name is Elara Vance. I believe we might be related." Daniel's brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Related? I don't think so. I'm an only child, adopted." "I know," Elara said, her voice gaining strength as she found her footing. "My grandmother Anna was your birth mother. She left me a letter before she passed away. She wanted me to find you." The air crackled with unspoken emotions. Daniel's face, initially open, closed off slightly, a mask of bewilderment and perhaps a hint of pain. He put down his pruning shears. "My birth mother," he repeated, the words tasting foreign on his tongue. I don't understand," Elara explained, carefully, gently, recounting Anna's letter, the story of Jonas, the impossible choice, the secret kept for decades. She showed him the locket, the tiny baby's photograph. Daniel looked at it, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch the image. A tear traced a path down his weathered cheek. "All these years," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "All these years, I wondered. My adoptive parents were wonderful, truly, but there was always a piece missing, a question." He looked up at Elara, his eyes searching hers. "And a sister? You said I have a sister?" "Lillian," Elara confirmed. "My mother. She doesn't know about you. No one does, except now. Me." The conversation stretched for hours on his porch, then inside his neat, comfortable home. Daniel, a retired history teacher, was a man of quiet intelligence and profound empathy. He listened to Elara's story, the pieces of his own life falling into place, a tapestry suddenly rewoven with threads he never knew existed. He spoke of his adoptive parents, of a happy childhood, but also of the persistent, nagging feeling of being an outlier, of a missing chapter in his personal history. Elara realized, with a pang, that Anna's secret had not only wounded her, but had also cast a long shadow over Daniel's life, a subtle, almost imperceptible void. The weight of time, of choices, pressed down on them both. The hardest part, Elara knew, was yet to come, telling Lillian, her mother, who had built her life on a foundation of carefully maintained normalcy, would be shattered. Elara drove back to her own home, the old house, the weight of the secret now shared, yet still incredibly heavy. She called Lillian, inviting her over for dinner. Lillian, always punctual, arrived with a bottle of wine and a bright smile. "What's the occasion, dear?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Elara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. How do you tell your mother that her entire understanding of her family, of her own identity, is about to be irrevocably altered? Over dinner, Elara broached the subject carefully, starting with Anna's will, the house, the small wooden box. Lillian listened, her smile slowly fading, replaced by a growing unease. When Elara finally presented the letter, Lillian's hands trembled as she took it. She read it silently, her eyes scanning the familiar script, her face paling with each passing line. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets. Lillian's face was a mask of shock, then disbelief, then a profound, almost unbearable sorrow. "A brother?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "All these years, Mother, how could she?" The tears came then, hot and fast, years of suppressed emotions finally breaking through. Lillian wept not for the brother she never knew, not yet, but for the mother she thought she understood, for the life she thought she had lived. She wept for the lies, for the silence, for the hidden pain that had shaped her own childhood, making Anna distant, sometimes unreachable. Elara held her mother, stroking her hair, letting her cry. There were no easy answers, no quick fixes. The wound was deep, decades old. But in that embrace, Elara felt a different kind of connection, a shared vulnerability that had been absent before. The secret, in its painful unveiling, was also a bridge. It took time. Weeks turned into months. Lillian, initially devastated, slowly began to process the truth. The anger, the hurt, gradually gave way to a nascent curiosity. She wanted to know about Daniel. Elara, acting as a gentle mediator, arranged a meeting. The first encounter between Lillian and Daniel was awkward, tentative. They met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe. Lillian, usually so composed, was visibly nervous. Daniel, kind and understanding, offered a gentle smile. There was a moment of profound silence as they simply looked at each other, two strangers bound by blood and a shared hidden history. Then, Lillian spoke, her voice still a little fragile. I wish I had known you. All these years." Daniel nodded, his eyes kind. "Me too, Lillian. Me too." They talked for hours, sharing stories of their lives, discovering uncanny similarities in their mannerisms, their shared love for gardening, their quiet sense of humor. Lillian learned that Daniel had always felt a pull towards the arts, a passion Anna had secretly harbored but never pursued. Daniel learned of Lillian's unwavering optimism, a trait that had helped her navigate a childhood shadowed by her mother's unspoken grief. The house, the old Victorian, became a gathering place. Daniel, with his historical knowledge, helped Elara uncover more of Anna's past, finding old photographs, letters, and even a hidden diary that shed further light on Anna's agonizing decision and her enduring love for both her children. They discovered a family tree that had been pruned and distorted, now, finally, allowed to grow freely. The process was not without its challenges. There were moments of renewed pain, of lingering resentment. Lillian struggled with the feeling of betrayal, of a childhood built on a partial truth. Daniel grappled with the implications of his identity, the life he could have had. But through it all, Elara remained a steady presence, a bridge between two worlds, two lives. She saw her role not as a judge, but as a facilitator of healing, a keeper of truths. One sunny afternoon, nearly a year after Anna's passing, Lillian and Daniel stood together in the overgrown garden of the old house. They were planting new roses, a symbol of new beginnings, of growth from old roots. Lillian, her face softer, more at peace than Elara had seen it in years, turned to Daniel. "You know," she said, a small smile playing on her lips, "I think Mother would have loved this. Us, together." Daniel nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I think so too, Lillian. I really do." He looked around the garden, then at the old house, no longer a place of secrets, but a home, finally, of shared history. It's funny how life works, isn't it? Sometimes the things we think are lost forever just need a little time, a little Uncovering. Elara watched them, a profound sense of peace settling over her. The house, once a repository of a painful secret, now hummed with a different kind of energy, an energy of reconciliation, of rediscovered connection. The dust still danced in the sunlight, but now it seemed to sparkle with possibility, not just the weight of the past. The choices made generations ago, the regrets that had haunted Anna, were finally finding a measure of redemption. The journey had been long, arduous, and emotionally draining, but standing there, watching her mother and her newly found uncle laugh together, Elara knew it had been worth it. The question lingered, for all of them, what if things had been different? But now, a new question emerged, one filled with hope. Is there still time? And the answer, echoing through the old house, through their newly woven family, was a resounding, beautiful yes. This story makes you wonder, doesn't it? About the secrets hidden in plain sight, the lives intertwined by choices made long ago. It makes you ask, what if you unearthed a truth that changed everything you thought you knew? What if there was still time to heal old wounds, to forge new connections? If this story resonated with you, if it stirred something deep inside, perhaps a memory, a question, or a longing for connection, then you understand the power of these quiet, profound moments. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What secrets have shaped your family? What hidden stories are waiting to be told? And if you haven't already, subscribe to Pure Emotion, Life After 50, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss another story that reminds us that it's never too late to reflect, to heal, or to understand our own journey. The camera pulls back slowly, revealing the entire family, Elara, Lillian, and Daniel, silhouetted against the setting sun, a tableau of quiet triumph. The house, once imposing and mysterious, now feels warm and inviting, its windows glowing with an inner light. The music, which has been subtle and emotional throughout, swells slightly, a gentle, hopeful melody. Narrator, VO. And so, the threads of a forgotten past were rewoven, not into a tapestry of regret, but into a vibrant new pattern of understanding and acceptance. The choices made generations ago, the silence that had once defined them, had finally found their voice. The scene shifts to a montage, depicting the passage of time. Montage. Ext. Old house. Day. Several months later. The garden, once overgrown, is now meticulously cared for. Flowers bloom in vibrant colors. Lillian and Daniel are planting new roses, their movements synchronized, a comfortable ease between them. Elara watches from the porch, sketching in a notebook, a serene smile on her face. Inti kitchen. Day, Lillian, Daniel, and Elara are laughing as they prepare a meal together. Daniel expertly chops vegetables, while Lillian stirs a pot on the stove. Elara is setting the table, a collection of mismatched antique plates now arranged with care. The kitchen, once sterile, now feels lived in and loved. Ext. Cemetery. Day, Lillian, and Daniel stand before a grave, a newly placed headstone bearing the name Anna Vance. They lay a bouquet of white lilies. Lillian places a hand on Daniel's arm, a silent acknowledgement of shared grief and healing. In tea. Living room. Night. The fireplace is lit, casting a warm glow. Lillian is reading aloud from an old photo album, Daniel listening intently, occasionally pointing to a picture and sharing a memory. Elara is curled up on a sofa nearby, eyes closed, soaking in the warmth of their shared stories. Narrator, VO. The what if that had once haunted them began to fade, replaced by a profound appreciation for the what is. The past wasn't erased, but recontextualized, its shadows softened by the light of new beginnings. The montage ends. We are back in the living room, a few years later. The room is even cozier, filled with personal touches, books, family photos, a well-loved quilt draped over the sofa. Lillian, now with a few more silver streaks in her hair, is sitting by the fireplace, knitting. Daniel, a little slower but still sharp, is reading a newspaper. Elara, looking more confident and radiant, is showing them sketches from her latest art project. Elara, and this one, I call Echoes of Anna. It's about how the past isn't truly gone. It just whispers to us, guiding us forward. Lillian and Daniel exchange a knowing look, a gentle warmth in their eyes. Lillian, she would have loved that, Elara. She truly would have. Daniel, she lives on, through all of us, and through this house. He gestures around the room. The house, indeed, feels like a living entity, breathing with the stories it holds. Narrator VO. The house, once a silent keeper of secrets, had become a vibrant storyteller. Its walls, once privy to whispered regrets, now echoed with laughter and shared memories. It was a testament to the enduring power of family, not just by blood, but by choice, by forgiveness, and by the courage to face the truth, however uncomfortable. The camera focuses on a framed photograph on the mantelpiece. A smiling Anna, a younger Lillian, and a bright-eyed Daniel. A new photo sits beside it, a recent one. Lillian, Daniel, and Elara, arms around each other, beaming. The two photos, decades apart, are connected by an invisible thread of love and resilience. Narrator, VO. This story, like so many others, reminds us that the human heart is a remarkable thing. It can hold immense pain, but also infinite capacity for healing. It can be scarred by betrayal, yet still open itself to forgiveness. It can be burdened by the weight of silence, only to find liberation in the quiet courage of truth. The camera slowly pans across the room, lingering on details. A worn armchair, a stack of old books, a vase of fresh flowers. Each object seems to hum with a newfound significance. Narrator, VO. We often speak of finding ourselves, but perhaps more profoundly, we find ourselves in the stories of those who came before us, in their struggles, their triumphs, their hidden moments of sorrow and joy. For it is in these shared narratives that we unearth not just who we are, but who we are meant to be. The scene shifts to a different shot, perhaps a close-up of Elara's hands as she gently traces the lines of an old photograph. Narrator, VO. The journey of self-discovery is rarely a straight path. It's often a winding road, paved with unexpected detours and startling revelations. Sometimes, the most profound answers lie not in looking forward, but in gently turning the pages of the past, allowing its wisdom to illuminate our present. Consider for a moment the profound impact of a single choice, a single secret, how it can ripple through generations, shaping destinies, coloring perceptions. Anna made a choice born of desperation and fear, a choice that, for decades, cast a long shadow over her daughter's life. Yet, through Elara's unwavering dedication, that shadow was finally lifted. The camera shows a more abstract shot, sunlight streaming through a window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, a metaphor for the unseen truths that often surround us. Narrator, VO. This isn't just a story about a family secret. It's a parable about the power of empathy, the courage to confront discomfort, and the timeless human need for connection. It's about understanding that sometimes the greatest act of love is to simply listen, to truly hear the unspoken stories, and to offer the gift of acceptance. Think about the countless families around the world, each with its own tapestry of untold stories. What if we all took a moment to look beyond the surface, to ask the difficult questions, to piece together the fragments of our collective past? What hidden connections might we uncover? What forgotten bonds might we rekindle? The camera returns to Lillian, Daniel, and Elara, now standing together on the porch, looking out at the revitalized garden. The air is crisp, the sun warm. Narrator, VO. The old house, once a symbol of what was lost, now stands as a beacon of what was found, a testament to the idea that it's never too late to heal, to forgive, to understand. It's never too late to build a new chapter, richer and more profound than any that came before. The camera pulls back, showing the house and the family, framed by the vibrant garden. The music swells once more, a full, resonant melody. Narrator, VO. So, if this story has touched a chord within you, if it has prompted you to reflect on your own family's narrative, then its purpose has been fulfilled. Because ultimately, these are not just stories from the past, they are blueprints for our future. They remind us that connection is our greatest treasure, and that love, in all its complex forms, is the most powerful force of all. The words pure emotion, life after 50 appear on screen, followed by the call to action. Subscribe and activate the notification bell for more stories that inspire and connect. Narrator, VO. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep seeking your own truths, keep nurturing your own connections, and remember, every life is a story waiting to be told. Fade to black. But what if these stories are not just about grand revelations or dramatic reconciliations? What if they are also about the quiet moments, the unspoken sacrifices, the everyday acts of kindness that often go unnoticed? The grandmother who tirelessly mended clothes, not just to save money, but to weave a thread of continuity through generations. The father who worked 2 jobs, not just for financial security, but to build a foundation of aspiration for his children. These are the unsung heroes of our family sagas, their contributions often overlooked in the pursuit of more sensational narratives. Consider the ripple effect of these seemingly small actions. A single act of generosity can inspire a chain reaction of compassion that spans decades. A moment of forgiveness can heal wounds that have festered for years, transforming resentment into understanding. This is the true legacy of family, not just the grand achievements or the tragic losses, but the intricate web of human interactions that shape who we are and who we are yet to become. The camera lingers on a close-up of a single vibrant rose in the garden, then slowly pans back to show the entire family again, now laughing softly as Daniel points out something to Elara. Lillian watches them, a gentle smile on her face. Narrator, VO. And in this tapestry of shared experiences, we find our own reflection. We see the echoes of our ancestors in our own struggles and triumphs. We recognize the patterns of resilience, the enduring spirit that has carried our families through countless challenges. This recognition is not just a nostalgic look backward. It is a powerful affirmation of our own inherent strength and potential. Think about the lessons embedded within these narratives. The wisdom passed down through generations, often subtly, through anecdotes, through traditions, through the very fabric of family life. The importance of perseverance learned from a grandparent's unwavering determination. The value of community instilled by a family's collective support during times of hardship. These are not merely stories. They are life manuals, offering guidance and insight for navigating our own complex journeys. The scene shifts slightly, showing Lillian and Daniel sitting on a porch swing, Elara playing nearby. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, golden shadows. Narrator, VO. So, let us not just listen to these stories, but actively seek them out. Let us ask the questions that have gone unasked, delve into the silences that have remained unbroken. For in doing so, we not only honor those who came before us, but we also enrich our own lives, gaining a deeper understanding of our roots, our identity, and our place in the grand continuum of human experience. The camera pulls back further, showing the house and garden bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. The music gently fades. Narrator, VO. May we all find the courage to explore our own family's narrative, to embrace its complexities, and to recognize the profound beauty that lies within every story. For truly, every life is a story waiting to be told, and every story is a gift waiting to be shared. Fade to black.